College Football Nation, we are back. And we are in the swing of things now. So as we said, if you follow our show, as we've said from the beginning, right, the first couple weeks are hardest. We don't really have much data. We're figuring teams out. Now we're starting to know what teams are like. We know Dion's luggage is Louis.
Yes, it is.
These guys can ball. You love Colorado. The good and bad of it this week is, in terms of just like entertainment, not many great games this week, right? Not something you want to tune in and bet too much money on. In terms of DFS, there's some good spots this week, and there's a lot of fun to be had. I'm as dialed in this week, and I say this kind of once or twice a year. I'm as dialed in this week as I've been. I really feel good about this slate. So, starting with you, Dave, I think we can get right into it.
I think so, but I love when I hear Joel dialed in, because last year that was like when you get dialed in your max entry. Other weeks you just try and play. Not saying you don't do max entries, but the other weeks you do kind of try to find other spots. Is this a max entry week?
It is. I'm so locked in.
I love it.
I know exactly where I'm going, where I'm playing, guys. I'm ready. So we'll get right into it. I'll show you where I'm looking at. I'm excited for the week. We'll start with the first game on the slate, this FSU BC game. And this one will probably be quick, right? The reality is, I'm going to share my screen so we can go through the depth charts as we always do. The reality is, FSU's a really good team and BC's not. And for DFS purposes, that it causes challenges because I can't imagine FSU is going to be playing all their guys for 4 quarters. So you're going to have to, if you're going to catch one of them, you got to catch one of them getting hot early in the game and probably sitting out the rest. And they're priced up. So to be completely honest with you, I don't really love many guys in this game. The only guy that's probably going to be on my radar for the most part is going to be Florida State's running back, Benson, because
I agree.
Boston College is not very good against the run.
Yeah. I mean, even looking at, DraftKings rankings, Boston College 264th against the run. Trey Benson had a not great game against LSU, but had a really good game last week and was able to pay up his value. So versus USM. So I think the running game is important. Travis just isn't worth it. Second quarterback on the board, 14 games. Joel and I love to talk about this. When you get into 14 game slates, you don't have to pay up. There's going to be guys that hit in the mid and lower tier ranges. So for me, Jordan Travis is off. Trey Benson is my only one. I agree.
Totally agree. I mean, Jordan Travis is a good spot for him, but there's going to be someone that matches his total that's just way cheaper this week. Correct. So we can look elsewhere. All right, let's move on over to this Indiana Louisville game. It's a little interesting because Indiana's starting a new quarterback who looked better. They might be a little bit improved. They're still not a very good offense. They're not an offense I'm going to be very excited about. But they do have a couple of pass catchers that can be on your radar. We know Cam Camper for last year was a big-time receiver, but he's got some injury concerns. At only $5K, he can be on your radar. And then meanwhile, while he was hurt, Cooper Jr. took over the lead role. He had a big game last week. If he's going to be the number one guy this week at 4K, he is certainly on my radar. I wouldn't play both of them, but I think one of those two you can play if you want to get some exposure to this game.
Yeah, and the total is juicy. I mean, it's 50.5, so it's even higher than the BC Florida State game. So I agree with you. I think Camper's always in play, way underpriced. I know he didn't have a great week one against Ohio State, but I think you can get in this game a little bit, but you just don't want to get too super invested in this game. It's a 1-2 off for me. And with what you said, I think Camper's a nice choice. I think Jordan from Louisville, averaging 26 DK points is going to be a good spot too. So again, don't get too over invested, but 1s and 2s I think are a good spot in this game.
I think Jordan's a good call. Jordan's interesting. He's a big play potential. I don't love the volume he's been getting, but he can break off a big one, and that's all you need from him. Yep. He's very explosive, and if he does get an uptick in carries, which it seems like he probably should, then at this price, he's a great value play. But I can't go off this game without mentioning Jamari Thrash, who is actually going to be one of my favorite plays of the week at receiver. This is a big-time receiver. He is their go-to guy. They're going to get him a lot of targets. He's way underpriced at $5,300. To me, that's a mistake. For the production I would expect for him, averaging about 25, 26 points a game I would find a way to get Thrash in your lineups.
Absolutely. 5,300 is a beautiful price. He's kind of like, we hit a lot of these last week in this 5K range. I think Thrash, again, talking, if you get off ones and twos, I think Thrash could be naked. I think he'd be fine with doing that. So 5,300, I think, is almost a steal. So Adam C's checking in, asking, who's our value? We might have even started there with Thrash, talking value at 5,300. I think it really is. So, Joel, good pick.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of value on this slate. So, like, if you want to spend up somewhere more than most weeks, you can. If one guy you really love, just because I think you can find enough value as well to make that lineup work, especially this week. All right, we're going to move over to this Kansas State Missouri game. Another decent spot here in that Kansas State's offense is improving. They got some playmakers. But Missouri, too. I mean, we talked last year about Burden, who is a big-time recruit. As a true freshman, they struggled to get him the ball. They are not struggling to get him the ball this year. If you look at his first two games, he's averaging 22 points. He's only got one touchdown with some positive touchdown regression, if you call it. He's got some explosive upside. At under 6K, I still think he's underpriced. And what should be a higher tempo game, I love Burden. Maybe my favorite receiver play of the week.
Yo, that's crazy you say it because he's in my top 3. So if he's not my favorite, because I still lean a couple, Keon Coleman, even though we didn't talk about too much, could be in play. But Burden's right there. Keon's only 6,500. Burden's 59. But Burden's going to play the whole game. I think you get a lot more value with Burden. I'm with you. I think it's a great pick this week. Burden is just that guy. He gets the looks. He gets the touches. Going outside of that, I know we've talked about it before. Missouri gets, there's a bunch of guys on Missouri, I think, we've always liked. Schrader gets interesting. I just think he's priced too high. What do you think?
I agree. And, this Kansas State team is tough up front. So running the ball is, and that's why I liked Burden, because they're going to probably have an easier time moving the ball through the air than on the ground. You're right. Schrader is a good player. I think the issues with Schrader are not his talent. It's the price tag and the fact that he's not alone in that backfield. They are going to get Pete involved as well. So he's going to have to share some of those carries. So I won't say he's unplayable, Schrader. I just think there's better options.
I agree. Then on the other side, I think Will Howard's been great this year. Absolutely fantastic. Kind of like Max Dugan last year from TCU, right? And I think Will Howard's right in that area. 82 is not too expensive to play for a guy that his floor is probably 20. His ceiling is 35, 36. So he's definitely in the 2.5 floor range value-wise and could potentially pop for 4 or 5X. So I think Howard's in play too. What about you?
No, I like Howard a lot. And Howard also is a big guy. So Howard can get you some goal line carries, a goal line touchdown, which is exactly what you want. He's already got 3 rushing touchdowns in 2 games, while also throwing for 5 touchdowns through 2 games. So listen, they've had 2 easier matchups than they're going to have this week against Missouri. But for Howard's profile, the way he plays at 8,200, he's cheap enough. I'd rather Howard than Travis for all the reasons that we said. It's a better game.
Correct. 8,200. I mean, say 1,500.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can spend up and get some better receivers and running backs in your lineup.
I actually have Howard in my top 5-6 quarterbacks. I think I'm going to play him a decent amount.
So when I started building lineups this week, he was my first quarterback. He has since dropped significantly. He's still in my player pool. I'm still playing him. I probably have him closer where you have him, around 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yep. Which means in play. I don't and let's just talk for the listeners real fast. I don't like to go probably too far outside of 6 or 7. Yeah. I mean, will I get some 5-10% ownerships at the 8, 9, 10? Sure. But I really want to build around my top 6 or 7. I do.
For sure. And especially in college, there's so many options. You kind of have to just make a commitment, get your narrow down your player pool, and that's how you're going to win. You spread yourself too thin, it can make it a little bit too challenging. All right. Now, the Mississippi State LSU game. Another spot I like a lot. I have a hard time getting away from Jaden Daniels in this match.
I agree so much.
At 8,600, this is a no-brainer in terms of a guy I'd rather have than someone in the 9K range, right? It makes no sense why they would price, Ohio State's quarterback in the 9Ks and price Daniels in the 8. That doesn't make sense to me. Daniels gets it done on the ground and through the air. And it's a funnel matchup in that Mississippi State's decent against the run, but they kind of force you to throw the ball in which would be an up-tempo environment. and Jaden Daniels kind of does everything for this team. Jaden Daniels is my number one play of the week.
Yeah, I agree. I can't not say anything more than you did. I think Jaden Daniels is a smash play this week. I think we're going to see a high-scoring game. LSU lost that first game against FSU, and they have nothing else to do but to blow teams out right now. Now, I'm not saying they're going to sit here and blow Mississippi State out, but they got to go for it. They can't just sit back and play passive. They got to win every game going in and here out. You've heard the rules. You've heard the stats. Nobody that lost their first game of college football has ever made a college football playoff. So they're going for it. Jaden Daniels will be part of it. And I think Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, I like Neighbors, don't get me wrong, but for a couple cents less, we'll say $300 less, Neighbors has been great this year. And I feel like he might be the guy. I mean, I'm sorry, Thomas has been great this year. I feel like he's the guy that I want to pair up with Daniels. I'll pair Neighbors up too. I will.
I'll add one thing to that. Even in a blowout loss to Florida State, he still threw for 350 yards and a touchdown and also ran for another 64 yards. So in a blowout loss, he can score 26 fantasy points, and this would be a closer game where they should win. I think the potential is very much so there. I think you nailed it. I'm leaning a little bit more toward Neighbors than Thomas this week, but they're a coin flip. They're kind of 1A, 1B. Either one of them can go off. You can even play both. It's harder to afford both, but I think one of those pass catchers has a big game tomorrow. So I'm going to definitely have exposure to one of the top two guys in this offense.
Yeah, and I agree. And I'm off the LSU running game. They just haven't proven it in the first 2 weeks. So if I'm going to play anything, it's the passing game. Rodgers can actually be a pair back, but how long has he been there?
He has been there a while. I'm not quite as confident in Rodgers now that they don't have Leach coaching this team. It's not quite the same offense. They're running the ball a lot more. This is more of a run offense. For me personally, my run back in this game is going to be Jaquavius Marks, the running back over Rodgers. He's then their go-to offensive player. They throw him the ball. Now they're handing him the ball 20 times a game. And LSU's defense is not what we think of as LSU. They're beatable. So this is going to be a higher scoring game.
Yep. And it's the highest scoring game that we've analyzed so far at 53.5. So I'm with you. I think you want to be in this game. And I think it's fair to make a lineup with 4 to 5 players with decent run backs here. So I'm with you.
For sure. All right. I think we'll be pretty quick here at this Penn State-Illinois game. There are a few plays we can go to, though. I'm going to start the obvious side, the Penn State side. You want some exposure to this Penn State running game. Both Singleton and Allen split carries, which makes it more challenging. This Illinois team is bad against the run. Penn State's going to have their way. Picking which one to pick is your challenge, but I'm going to have exposure to both.
I think that's fair. Just don't put them together. Expose them both on different lineups. So I do think that's fair. It's funny because really, I won some good lineups last year with Singleton, but I did, there's nights that you have the other guy that pops. So definitely, I think spread them out, but have a piece of both. I'm curious what you think about Altmaier on the other side because Penn State's D is really good, but if they're down and that value, I think it's not bad where we're sitting here with the price.
No, you're spot on. I like Altmaier. He's one of my sneaky quarterback plays of the week. Penn State already, and now I'm slipping my mind against two. But I looked back, Penn State already got beat by a running quarterback once this year. The guy had a good game. So this is a running quarterback situation where Penn State might be a little bit vulnerable. Altmaier had 13 carries for 70 yards last week. He's never going to throw for 300 yards, but you don't need to if you're going to run for 70 and 2 touchdowns. So
exactly. No, he and I might run him naked. There's some other values there, but I just think Penn State's D is good enough that I'd rather probably just run the quarterback naked here if I do anything.
Agreed. You don't have to pair him with anyone. You can if you did want to. They do have a good receiver in Williams. He's the guy you'd pair him with. But that is not someone I would say you have to do. But if I was going to, that would be the guy.
So let's go to the next game, and it surprises everything out of me. Wisconsin's won a 60-point total, Joel. A 60-point total for a Wisconsin Badgers team just tells you, the opponent they're playing, but also the pace that they want to try and play at, which is a little different in years past.
Yeah, the pace is up. What's interesting is, they brought in Mordecai. It's more of an up-tempo offense. They're still not really throwing the ball, right? And they're still it's a run-first team. They got 2 1A running backs that they just feed the ball to. Braylon Aaron, my number 1 running play of the week by a wide margin. This is not a good defense on the other side. they're going to have their way, and he's going to carry the ball a lot. I'm going to be playing a ton of Braylon Allen this week. But after Braylon Allen, I'm really not that interested in this game.
I kind of agree. And like I said, it kind of like, I mean, unless I'm looking at things wrong, I mean, it's a big total. I can't get with any Wisconsin receiver. And I've tried. I tried to pair them up early. I tried to take some 1s and 2s here, but it's just not working. This over under 65, Georgia Southern is not anything of a defense that should stop this team. But from that standpoint, I just can't. Like DK, I tried. Didn't really work out. Polling, like nobody's averaging more than 11.7 points from the receiver position. So I think I'm with you. I think it's Braylon Allen, and I'd be okay at 7,200 with Mordecai. I'd be okay possibly pairing him naked. If I wanted to do anything from the receiver side, maybe I get a little interesting here and go Bell at 3,000. He's actually showed up and is really, really cheap price. So far, Skylar Bell, I take 8 receptions in 2 games, 3,000. Not a bad point. If he can just pop maybe a touchdown here, we could get 5x value.
I think that's a really good point you made. And for context, the one thing I'll add to that is if you're going to take a shot on a guy like Bell, what you're doing here, at 3K, it's worth taking the shot, right? At 3, he's so cheap. If he gets one big play, he pays it off, and you're in good shape. You don't take shots like this on 5K guys, but at 3K, this is where it's interesting and it's worth taking a shot. So I like that call.
Cool.
All right, let's keep this train moving. We're going to go over to this Utah Weber State game. This actually has a few interesting tidbits in it. So I'll go through it. We got to know the status of Cam Rising. Not that I want to play Cam Rising. Too expensive this week. He probably won't play the whole game anyway. But if he's confirmed out in the game, and let's get this game off, sorry. If he's confirmed out in the game, the backup quarterback, Nate Johnson, Nate Johnson, is priced at $4,500. If he starts at quarterback and plays this whole game, he didn't start these last game. He just came in on the last series. He drove him down the field and scored a touchdown. In that series, he had 11 carries for 32 yards and a rushing touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown at the end of the game against Florida. He was 6 of 7 and 3/4. He only has 2 incompletions. If this guy plays the whole game and he costs $4,500 on a team that is way better than the team he's playing, and this is really not on people's radar because people aren't sure about Cam Rising. This isn't like something people are talking about. Nate Johnson could be a smash value play.
I love it. I mean, it's one that you want to just tuck away, not probably be overzealous right now tonight. But if he can get – if we watch and we get Rising out, Nate Johnson is worth the play. He can win GPPs. He'll be probably owned less than 1-2%. I love it.
Very low owned. And you can play him naked. You don't have to play him with a receiver here. Vele's the highest price, but he hasn't done anything this year. He's not the guy. I think if you were going to do it, it would be Matthews. 5,600 is a little pricey for Matthews, but if you want to pair him, you can. Matthews was very involved when he got in the game. He had 4 catches, so that's the guy I would go to. But I think playing him naked is totally fine.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good game and a good shot there. You got to be different. That is way different. Love it.
It's different. Now, on the counter to that, with Bernard out, Jackson's a great play too this week. They're going to score points. They're going to kill this team. I think Johnson's the way to get different. Jackson's going to be very popular. That's okay, though. I'm okay with playing the popular back in Jackson in what should be a really good smash spot for him.
Yep, agreed.
Now, Weber State's main running back is min-priced, which is weird. Now, it's not a good matchup.
It is weird.
Utah is way better than them, and they're a good run defense. But this is their main offense, and they will give him the ball 20 times. For his role in this game to be minimum priced, he's in play. If you need a minimum price running back to go, I think you can take a shot on him here.
Even if you get 9-10 points, he's going to give you that value that you need. So I love it. I think it's something that it gets weird when these teams, play against big teams that they haven't even faced before, and you don't know if they're going to come out with a different style. But he's got the touches, he's got the volume. Look, you're already showing it. 35 attempts in 2 games, 3K. Yes,
too cheap. Averaging 34 points a game. That's weird.
Yeah, that might not happen, but it's the touches that we look at. But
exactly. Exactly. You're not going to get 30 points against Utah, but listen, like you said, if he gets 15, that's a smash for 3K. All right. Honestly, I think we can almost fully skip this Notre Dame Central Michigan game. I'm not playing anyone on Central Michigan. I do like Estime, Notre Dame's running back, but that's about the only guy I'd play.
Sure. I mean, as much as we love Hartman, I feel like Hartman is going to be deployed, used more in situations when there is games that he needs to win. This isn't one when you're favored by 34.5. I think he's going to sit back, let the run game dominate, hit the passes that he needs to, go away with 20 points, and have a fun night afterwards there in Notre Dame. So, yeah, I'm with you. His teammate's probably the only real solid play that I would take out of this game.
And to your point, I agree. I like Hartman as a player. It's just not a good game environment. They can run the ball. There's no need for him to throw, and he's not going to be playing in the fourth quarter. So it just doesn't make sense for this week.
Agreed.
All right, but now one that does make sense for this week. I played my second favorite quarterback play of the week.
There you go. He's my third. We're close.
There you go. We are on the same page. Yeah. Riley Leonard. Listen, he went out there and beat Clemson. Okay. And that wasn't a fluke. This guy was awesome last year. This isn't out of nowhere. This is a very good football player. And the biggest thing to note and to add is that he also does it with his legs. And that is the biggest factor with these college quarterbacks because it's like playing two players. He doesn't have to go off for 350 and 4 TDs to be effective. If he throws for, 200 yards and 2 TDs and then runs for another TD, that is a big day for a quarterback that is under 7K against a pretty bad Northwestern team.
Everything you're saying is right. I think Riley Leonard is a pro-style quarterback. Don't be surprised if you see him get drafted in the first round next year. Don't be. I mean, he's an NFL prototypical quarterback. Obviously Daniel Jones came out of Duke. They have been able to land some in the pros. He's a good player. And this week, I think, is a great week. Northwestern, God, what are they? We don't know, but we do know that they're a mess. And I think Riley Leonard, that's what I said, right there in my top 3 quarterback plays at that like 6,700, please. No,
and don't let the stats scare you. He didn't throw an incompletion last week. They won 42-7. They just didn't need him to keep throwing the ball. It was over already. So if they let him play a little bit longer this week, the stats will certainly come. Who are we pairing him with? Another great value play in Jalen Calhoun. Jalen Calhoun was his number 1 guy last week. He will force feed him the ball. Same concept applies here in that Clemson slowed him down, but they looked his way quite often that week. Then against Lafayette, they were 42-7. They didn't need him in the game. Here, I think they'll need him a little bit more. He's a much better player than the $5,400 price tag.
Agreed. I think it's a great pair. I think it's something that we want to get into here because I think for Riley to really break the slate, he's going to have to throw a lot more. I mean, like you said, he is a running quarterback, but I think he's going to make it with his arm this week. So we got to pair him with someone. Calhoun is definitely my favorite target, and that's a good price for a high volume receiver.
100%. Anyone on Northwestern side interest you?
No.
Agreed. All right. We will move on over to the San Diego State, Oregon State game. This is another one. I'll be quick. I'm not interested in anyone on San Diego State. They're not very good on offense. Oregon State should handle them. They got a good offense. DJ, way overpriced for what he does. He can run it in. I just don't think we need to pay $9K for him. My preferred play is going to be Martinez at running back at 6,400.
Been great. I mean, he was great at the end of last year, and this is a running team. So I agree with you.
Anyone else in this game that you're looking at?
To be frank, not really. Like it's a tough game. San Diego State is one that's always showed up and played a slower style. We did hit early in the year with Redmond. I might be able to rock Redmond again, the tight end there for 4,200 on San Diego State. He was a big hit for us in week 0. It might be time for him to break out again. 23.2 in that game. So maybe Redmond, but not much else. I just can't rely on a steady volume anywhere else.
I agree with you. on that one.
And you're the tight end whisperer.
Well, you're right. I mean, Redmond would be the play for sure, but I'm kind of scared off by that game environment. It's a tougher, slower pace. Like San Diego State's usually a more defensive team, so I'm not really on Redmond, but I certainly see your point. If I were looking for a value play, that would be the one.
4,200. If we can pop similar, not even get the 23, get 16, 17 out of them, it's a really good spot.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So we'll move this over to this South Carolina Georgia game. I think this game is intriguing to me more in real life than in DFS, to be honest. I'm intrigued to see if South Carolina can show up on this Georgia team. There is a smash play coming out of this game, one of my favorite plays. And listen, we've talked about this guy a lot. Probably, if you want to talk about tight end whisperer, probably the best tight end in the country. I don't know what they're doing with his price here. Brock Bowers at 4,700, to me, when I first saw that, totally unacceptable. This is way underpriced. Now, you look at last week, he had 1 catch for 3 yards. Let's not let the box score deceive you. They won 45-3. There was no reason to get him involved in the game. The game was over before it started. This game will be more offense. South Carolina is not going to score. Is probably going to score more than once. They're not going to win, I don't think, but they should probably at least have some offense involved in the game, unlike what Ball State. So if Georgia has to move the ball, the guy they're going to in the air is Brock Bowers. This is a maybe first-round pick NFL talent. I don't understand why the price is low, and the ownership isn't that high either. Brock Bowers, smash play.
Love it. Ladd McConkey is questionable, probably not going to play for Georgia. And this is a game, like you said, probably going to be, again, Georgia wins, but probably going to be at least a little more competitive than last week. They'll be a lot more engaged. They won't be disengaged playing a South Carolina team. I love it. I think Brock Bowers at 4,700 is tremendous. He gets handoffs too, right? He doesn't just catch the ball. He gets a few other things going on. It's fantastic. And I will tell you, maybe I'll be off a little bit here, but I'm okay with Spencer Rattler. They're going to trust him to throw the ball. He's thrown the ball for an average of 349 yards in the first 2 games. He's going to rip it. That's the only choice he has. And I think at 7,500, we might even get some garbage times. They won some games late in the year last year with Rattler, and he surprised some people. So I'm okay. I'm okay with some Rattler here. I know it's Georgia. I know how great they are, but Georgia really hasn't seen a test yet. Let's see what Rattler does.
I don't hate it. I actually think it's pretty interesting. He's going to be pretty low owned. Like, listen, for 2 to 3 years, it was whoever Georgia's playing, eliminate. That's it. Didn't even think
it was.
They're playing them, they're out, right? And I'm like, that's not really the case. I'm not sure that's the case this year. They lost a lot of guys. They're still going to be an above average defense, but I don't know if they're like, you can't play against them type of defense. And Rattler's their toughest test for sure. So especially, I'm not saying like I would play him in cash, but I think if you're looking to get different, I would agree. I think Rattler's in play.
Yeah. So just something that's, I think, worth just exploring. Again, GPP is only cash. I don't touch him.
Agreed. Totally agreed. This is a real shame. It looks like Bama is going to bench Milroe at quarterback. The reason that's a shame is because Milroe's a dual threat quarterback, and this USF team is so bad on defense that Bama is going to be able to score a ton of points. With Milroe out, I don't trust Buckner. I think Buckner used to be at Notre Dame. He was pedestrian at best. Hard for me to imagine him having a slate-breaking game. It is the right matchup. I just don't trust the talent there. I think the interesting play to me is probably Jason McClellan. Listen, at the end of the day, I have confidence in the Alabama rushing offense figuring it out. He hasn't had a great game yet this year. I have to think that's going to change. If they're starting a new quarterback, maybe this week they go and rely on the ground game. What do you think?
I hear you. I'm actually intrigued by Buckner. And I'll say from this perspective, yeah, I don't think he's very good. Like you said, I think Notre Dame just wasn't great there. But Alabama definitely needs some type of infusion from a standpoint. Losing to Texas last week was bad. And they need some type of juice going on the flow and get this team going better. I think Buckner might, like South Florida's terrible defensively. I think they might try and just give their boosters, give their fans something to really be excited about. And they're not going to get excited about Milroe, but they're going to take a chance here. If Buckner goes wild, I think they would get excited. So I like Buckner maybe a little more than you do. I'm agreed. I'm not in love. I'm not saying he's going to sit here and get 40, but 7,100. He's in my player pool. I also think Byron Brown might be a little bit too. Watching Quinn Ewers have a decent game. Byron Brown's been good, but he's been good on the ground. And I guess maybe that's the key here. Are we really going to get that many attempts and carries? He's had 42 attempts in 2 games as a quarterback. They're going to try and do something here. He's going to get those yards. Does he really get I don't know. We'll see. But I think 6,400 worth a look.
Yeah, 6,400. I think the only thing scaring me off is that it's Bama. But to your point, it's not
I
really
get
the
it.
Bama of old. You know,
Yeah.
listen, with 17 and 25 rushes and throwing 34 times, that's maybe the highest usage you're going to see on the slate. So if the guy's going to have the ball in his hands that much, I'd agree. He's got to be at least.
That's my point. 42 carries. It's not like just because it's Bama, they're not going to stop playing their way and they're going to home. They don't get these types of games there that much. So just an idea. A guy, he's definitely my top 7 player pool for quarterbacks.
It's interesting play. I like it. All right. Now let's look at here's one. We got an interesting one here at 4:00. It's Ohio State and Western Kentucky. And the reason why this isn't
yeah,
we talked about it.
We did.
So,
yeah.
For those of you who follow us, and if you followed us for a while, we talked about Bailey Zappi. And Bailey Zappi is now on the Patriots. Pretty good. He was unbelievable in college. He was throwing for 500 yards a game, 4 touchdowns. Bailey Zappi went to Houston Baptist. The Houston Baptist coach, then his last year got hired by Western Kentucky. They brought the whole offense to Western Kentucky, and they had a huge year at Western Kentucky. The coach is still there. Bailey's gone, and now they have Austin Reed. They throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. They have an awesome receiver, like a seriously awesome receiver in Corley, who can get open. Now, this is the toughest test they're going to face. It's Ohio State. And yes, there is the potential that Ohio State can kind of ruin them. But the way I see it is, Ohio State, even if they go up 24-0, they're just going to keep throwing Western Kentucky. And so even garbage time points, they count.
Yeah, they have count. To. Yeah.
So they're not going to take him out of the game. And the reality is, Austin Reed at 5,500 versus 98% of the country is the guaranteed smash play of the week. Ohio State's one of those teams that make it maybe questionable, but at 5,500, worth a shot.
You just walked into my number 1 quarterback of the week. I mean, we've talked about some good ones, Jaden Daniels, some others. He's it, Riley Leonard. But to me, 5,500, I can build so much, so many good lineups around Austin Reed. And even if he trips up a little bit and only puts up 20, I'm good. I'm still good. I can build other places. He'll get a red flame next to his name. Austin Reed is a great spot. Like you said, they're going to be down. And listen, Ohio State's not Ohio State from the past 2-3 years. For all those Buckeyes fans out there, they know they got a little concern out there. They didn't look great against Indiana in week 1. Indiana's bad. Western Kentucky's bad too, but this guy can throw more than the Indiana guy. So I like Austin Reed a lot. 5,500. I'm not really sure if I'm going to pair him up with anybody. To me, I think I can run him. And this has been kind of a theme, especially when you get to 14 games, Joel. And you know this. I don't have to. I'm okay pairing him or going naked and just finding better players. At 5,500, I might not even risk who he's going to throw to.
Especially with a cheap quarterback, because then you can just pay up and get the best receivers, and your cheap quarterback can spread it around. He doesn't need to get all of it on his own. So you can spread that out in college football more so than NFL. You kind of need the stack.
Yeah,
but I will add. Last week, it looked to me, and I was laughing watching some of that game, that basically the coach told McCord that you either throw Harrison the ball or you don't play anymore. And so they were just peppering Harrison the ball. He wasn't even open. They're just throwing it at him and seeing what stuck. So if they do anything like that again, he easily has a smash potential. 9,100 is an absurd price for wide receiver. But if you're going to be getting these cheap value quarterbacks and you have room to spend up, he certainly has the ability to have a huge day.
Yeah, I like Harrison. I mean, I definitely think I'm going to try and get him in a lot of my player pools, or a lot of my lineups, I should say. So, yeah, Harrison's up there in my top 3. So I don't care. 9,100 doesn't scare me, especially with we just talked about 4 quarterbacks below 6,200. We talked about so many different receivers. I can get Harrison in a lot of my lineups.
Totally. You can afford them. There's plenty of value to be able to get them into your lineup. So I love that play. The last game of the week is going to be Tulane and Southern Methodist. Not a very exciting game, to be honest with you. The only guy I'm really looking at maybe one of these pass catchers on Tulane, because both guys are studs, Jackson and Keys. They're priced appropriately. I don't think it's a value. That's probably what they should be. If you want to sprinkle one in here or there, I'm okay with it. I don't think it's a priority. Yeah,
I like Jackson a lot. And I'm just going to say, I don't mind if Pratt doesn't play. We saw last week Jackson actually got more targets and receptions with the backup. So Jackson at 6,300, probably like a little more than Keys. But yeah, on that side, I'm good with both and I'll play both. But Jackson probably is more. 6,300 is good for a guy that's been averaging almost 23, 24 points a game.
You're right, and he has the big play potential. He basically needs one of those big plays, and he gets you there. So I'm with you on Jackson for sure. I almost did forget though, and so before I get out of here, one of my favorite running backs is going to be freshman running back on Tulane, Mekhi Hughes.
Yes,
he's only 4,600. Way too cheap. Especially if Pratt's out, they're going to definitely feed him the ball. If he gets anywhere near 23 carries again this week in a much softer matchup, he is in an absolute smash spot.
Yeah, I mean, Southern Miss last week got to play against Florida State and allowed 8.3 yards per carry to running backs.
Yeah.
Enough said. 4,600. This feels just like a great spot. I mean, and we're looking deep into the slate. This is the last game on the Mekhi Hughes is a really nice spot. Good call.
There it is. That is a wrap for tonight. Like I said before, this is a fun week. There's some spots to be had. There's a lot of different ways you can go. I don't think there's too much obvious chalk, which allow you to go out there, build the way you want. I love this slate. I think we're going to have a really fun week. Dave, before we wrap up tonight, what game are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, obviously, like a lot of good stuff on the schedule tomorrow. And when we start to look up and down, I mean, there's not that sexy, but it's got to be Colorado State. Yeah. It just has to be. After watching all this talk from the Colorado State coach about talking about Deion's classes, and now they're like, "You done disrespected us." It's got to be the battle of the state in Colorado, the Mile High State. I look forward to it, and I think. Listen, I'm down in Atlantic City right now. We just stopped at the sports book, and it's 23.5. A little much, right? I'm not sure I can get that high with Colorado, but I can't wait to watch it.
I can't. Every week, Deion is much watch TV, and now it's official. It's personal. Now it's personal. Now it is personal. We're gonna have some fun.
Coach Crime.
That's Dave. You can follow him at DGlep. I'm Joel, Draftmaster Flex. You'll catch us next week at 9 o'clock on Friday. Before you go, hit the like button, give us a follow. It goes a long way. And good luck.